Today we have with us Brenda, Vice President of Invoice-to-Cash at marketing.com. She comes in with a deep expertise in tech transformation and as a solutions architect in O2C across Miller Environmental Group, George Pacific LLC, and many other firms.
It's just been amazing to watch how technology has really driven the changes that the businesses have been able to make. Really getting into all things order to cash, billing, collections, credit, cash app.
How do you see the transformation of AR happening as a solutions architect?
20 years ago, most departments, AR, billing, cash app, were made up of huge teams. We really just had this sort of flat environment where we were always behind the curve. At Georgia Pacific, take these SOPs that we had that basically detailed our processes and then turn those into our automations. 10 years ago, you have an invoice, you mail the invoice out. The customer might get it in a week via mail, and then they get it and they write you a check, and then they send the check back. Getting to the point where you have platforms where customers can go in digitally, log in, see their invoices, grab them, pay them, and you're getting all of this right back in the same time instead of waiting for the check to go to the bank.
A very interesting point. When you are sending an email and customer is responding on email, it's not connected with your ERP, right? We have built that AI agent
Right.
for this specific purpose. When you send an email to a customer response, the agent actually runs it, reads it, passes it on an LLM and understands what it is and builds a workflow. If it's a payment detail, you do a cash
Right.
posting, cash application, or just reward. Incremental transformations helps, but would also like to understand a couple of transformation projects which you are really proud of.
So we were in this world of, we used to mail invoices. One of the biggest issues, customer reason 101, is I never got the invoice. We were able to say, yeah, you got the invoice. You got it on this day. All of a sudden, we opened people up to the ability to self serve. Let's bring all of this data that we need into this one environment, and now let's make it make sense. It allowed us to trust our numbers. It helped us reduce waste. We weren't risk for overpaying or underpaying, as well as holding our teams accountable.
Lovely transformations having a single source of truth across different systems because there are so
Yes.
many systems
But
where
those were
these
at
two
Georgia
projects were
Pacific. That's where I spent a majority of my time, and I was able to partner with a lot of the fabulous teams and learned so much
how AI can disrupt.
in this space. Being able to scan these mailboxes, pull out the pertinent information, update accounts on demand, putting Cash App in a world where we live in real time transactions.
As you mentioned in cash application, billing, invoicing, across different processes, AI has really great applications. What is your advice to become a leader in finance?
Might really surround yourself with top talent and empower your teams.
I hope you had a great time listening to Brenda and me talk about O2C, talk about the transformation projects that we have worked on. Hello everyone, I'm your host Amartya Singh, the co-founder and CEO of FinFlow, an AI-driven product built by and for modern finance teams. Welcome to the 22nd episode of Inside the CFO Office, where we explore the journeys of finance leaders, discuss the challenges they have overcome, and gain insights into the future of finance. Today we have with us Brenda, the Vice President of Invoice to Cash at marketing.com. Marketing.com is a marketing technology firm and executes multiple touch campaigns from design to tracking. She comes in with a deep expertise in tech transformation and as a solutions architect in O2C across Miller Environmental Group, George Pacific LLC, and many other firms. So today we'll be speaking on the topic of transformation, a solutions architect view. Today's podcast will be a lot more about tech transformations and we'll be doing a technical deep dive. So welcome Brenda, how is your day looking like?
Excited to be here.
Thanks Brenda. So I think let's jump into the podcast with the first question. Would love to talk about your journey and you have worked on products, you
Yeah.
have worked on O2C, you have done a gamut of roles. Would love to know how has been your journey from a product and leadership journey in AR and
I've had a wonderful experience. When I started, I was young and I got an opportunity at Koch Industries to support Georgia Pacific. And it was basically seeing where we are now and coming from the time of intercompany mail. We used to, we couldn't send things to each other. It's just been amazing to watch how technology has really driven the last 20 years and the changes that the businesses have been able to make, and it's been a great environment. And after 20 years with them, I left, and then I was able to really deep dive into the still in the private equity field. So spent the year at Miller Environmental working with them. It was a wonderful experience as well, learned a lot. And then over here now at JL Equity and really getting into all things order to cash, billing, collections, credit, cash app, and just really all of the skills that I've acquired over the last 20 years and turning it into a well functioning machine.
Got it. Great. I think with regards to your last experience, last two, three firms, right? So we who have been working on the billing side and the
Yeah.
invoice to cash side. So one, let's go into a little bit more detail into
Yeah.
technical transformation. So you have worked across projects and transformation of AR across different companies. So what is your take? And this is a two-parter. The first part is that how do you see the transformation of AR happening as a solutions architect? And the second question is, we'd love to talk about a couple of transformation projects that you have worked on. But how is your view of on the overall transformation of AR as a
Yeah, I
solutions
think
architect?
when you look back 20 years ago, most departments, AR, billing, cash app, were made up of huge teams. It took 30, 40, 50 people in order to keep an organization running. And one of the main drivers behind that wasn't that it took that many people to handle the amount of accounts. The problem was the workload, the amount of time that it took in order to spend and comb through everything in order to deliver results to the business and to your customers at the same time. So we really just had this sort of flat environment where we were always behind the curve. Everything was just a day or two behind in delivering results to your customers. So when you think about kickbacks that we used to get or rejections that we used to get. Somebody had to sit and comb through a mailbox in order to find all of these sort of things. And that takes time. Nobody has the bandwidth to do it. And I remember early in my career, we used to assign every Thursday, we used to sit 4 hours on a call just to go through a mailbox. But by then, we're answering a question that our customer was asking us a week ago. So it just, we really had to ways to be able to be real time. We want information real time. We want to be able to say, hey, what's the numbers? How is the sales going? What's the billing at? We want to know those numbers in real time. But in order to really be accurate about it, we have to also be able to support our customers in real time, which we just weren't able to do 20 years ago. So it's been amazing for me to see a lot of the advances that have gone on. And honestly, for as many big platforms as they are, a lot of it starts really homegrown. One of the things that customers and businesses are really big on is having SOPs and making sure that you have these procedures of what's going on. And that's really your framework. We were able to, especially at Georgia Pacific, take these SOPs that we had that basically detailed our processes and then turn those into our automations, looking at them and saying, okay, we're spending X amount of time on this, it's taking X amount of people to do it. Can this be automated? And then, if it could, putting the right people in the right room and figuring out how to do it. And I think that a lot of companies, especially small businesses, don't really take advantage of that. There are so many platforms, but at the same time, you have to look at what you have in house and use the tools and the resources and the people that you have in order to drive a lot of these changes. And that's one of the things that I think has made a difference over the years. It's just been those small sort of projects. They teach us in Black Belt and Scrum just what little wins can you get. And I think when you get a bunch of those little wins and you start seeing how much time it is saving, it's just amazing. And I think one of the hesitations that people have when it comes to automation is okay, you have a task, it takes 10 hours a week. We're going to automate it. So now it's done like this. And people worry, oh, my job. There's so much work to do. You have to be able to free yourself up, free your teams up so that they can actually drive more change and add more value instead of being caught up in the rigmarole of going through stacks of paperwork.
Got it. I think, I mean, from a transformation perspective, you obviously, I what I can see also is that a transformation or changes do not happen, might not happen in a big way in a single go. There are always incremental changes, incremental improvements, incremental optimization, incremental automation that keep on building over a point of time, and that's where you understand, hey, this is working, this is
Right.
not working, this is working, let's do it better, let's keep it aside. I think there's a lot of statement
Yeah.
and solutioning, and it can be a minor problem statement, major problem statement, minor solutioning, major solutioning that go hand in hand. And And I can see that it's like a long process. It's not, let me call it, from a
Right.
consultative mindset, right? You focus on problem statement and solution, but there's a lot of consultative. It's across the life cycle, because as you rightly said, you have 50, 60 folks working
Right.
on a problem statement. It's very difficult to get them together, work together. Then somebody is
Right.
not doing good somewhere, it just goes wrong.
Listen.
Then who has done it, you don't have the
Right.
to
And
check
it's
it.
just you're always behind the curve. I've seen businesses where you're trying to contact customers. You have a handful of collectors and all these. How are they making all those phone calls? It's impossible. It's impossible to touch all the accounts. And then they wonder why their DSOs, all these numbers are just down. They're not collecting, having the money. You don't have the right tools in place in order to be able to do the things that you need to do. And I know for me, one of
Right.
the real changing points was fortunate for me earlier in my career being with Coke. They were really there for driving that change and for that innovation. And they gave us that bandwidth to see what problems we could solve and how we could impact and do things that were going to make the lives of our coworkers and our clients easier.
Right.
So it's this tandem thing you have to have going on. You got to have the right people, but then you also have to foster an environment where you're allowing these things to happen. You staying behind the curve on this and not taking those leaps and those advances towards automation, you're going to get left behind. And
Yeah.
other businesses are just moving at a faster pace than what you are. Living in this real time world where instead of 10 years ago, you have an invoice, you mail the invoice out. The customer might get it in a week via mail, and then they get it and they write you a check and then they send the check back. We saw those changes when we moved away from checks and we moved to ACH. Now, getting to the point where you have platforms where customers can go in digitally, log in, see their invoices, grab them, pay them, and you're getting all of this right back in the same time instead of waiting for the check to go to the bank to go and be deposited in a batch to clear to post in your system. Your customer is able to go in, make that payment, and then now these systems, instead of talking in this days over thing that we were dealing with, you're talking real time again. So they're making the payments, customer can pay it, you can log in and see it. And why shouldn't businesses operate that way? It's amazing to me how in every other facet of our life, we operate that way. When my electric bill comes in, I pay my electric bill online and they can see it immediately. So the fact that our businesses do the same way is just mind boggling to me. They're doing something right over at those companies, and we have to make sure that we're bringing it into the day to day in our industries as well.
Got it. No, great. I think also, I mean, from the perspective also, mentioned an interesting point, and that has really interested me since a long while. One thing what you mentioned is that the customer queries coming in, and you are taking, let's one case where you are doing sync up on the on Thursday, which takes 4 hours, where you go through emails to see what has really happened, and that is one of the big problems. And I'll tell you a very interesting point, and I had a deja vu because I had also come across this problem. I was speaking with somebody, and then it struck me that one of the major reasons is that when you are sending an email and customer is responding on email, it's not connected
Mhm.
with your ERP, right? So it is not connected to financial transaction or financial data. Right? It needs somebody to understand what that email means and get the data from the ERP and marry it and give it to do something out of it, maybe build a workflow or
Right,
revert to the customer. Very interesting. We have built that AI agent
right,
for this specific purpose. What it does is that when you send an email to a customer response, the agent actually runs it, reads it, passes it on an LLM, and understands what it is and builds a workflow. Or if it's a payment detail, you do a cash
right.
posting, cash application, or just revert. So that's a very interesting point which you mentioned, and I think that is where the automation or the
Mhm.
transformation really comes in. So, love your answer. I think from the perspective about how incremental transformations helps, but would also like to understand a couple of transformation projects which you are really proud of, which you were really saw either moving the needle or it was on the ground a
I
big
mean,
implementation.
I've gotten to do so many over the years. It's been one of the highlights of what I've done. I think that for two different aspects, I would start with one that is just a smaller one. It was a simple fix, but it still had the biggest impact on us and still drives the way the business is done today. So even when I started at GP back in '07, we were in this world of, we used to mail invoices. We had rubber fingers and we used to stuff envelopes in it like we were secretaries in a typing pool. And we spent hours each week doing this task. And we tried to find ways to automate it without making mistakes. And when I was fortunate enough to partner with one of my coworkers there, Rodney Stone. He really helped guide me and hold my hand. And I was able to call him with my ideas and he could build it, which you have to have those people. You have to have those people who you can all your ideas to and who can actually make it come to life. And we were able to go from this process of buying envelopes, buying paper, having 5 copy machines in order to support us to getting to a way of adding barcoding to it, seeing if we could do it this way, still separating, but it still saved the time. And then ultimately getting to the point where we could partner with a company like Billtrust at the time and have them come in and actually help us do that automation and start getting those invoices out. And the thing was that it didn't seem like a big thing to people. Oh, you're just going to automate the invoice delivery. But it was because we got so much out of it. One, the paper alone in that time that we saved. Two, somebody always had to be in the office. Somebody had to be in the office, stack, make sure the copy machine had it. There was no way. We had a snowstorm and we had to run to the office to put copy and paper in there just so we could print invoices and try to get them to our customers. And then we still couldn't even mail them out because we were landlocked. Taking something
Right.
like that and then essentially having them go out and it answers all those questions. One of the biggest issues that you deal with, especially in the AR space, is customer reason 101 is I never got the invoice. And what we found was
Mm.
having this new automation tool that we could use, we were able to say, yeah, you got the invoice. You got it on this day, you got it at this time, and this person opened it. And all of a sudden, that little thing changed the way that we did business. Instead of having to spend time gathering invoices or printing them out one by one and scanning them, we got it just a platform. You could go in and grab them. Anybody can do it. And all of a sudden, we opened people up to the ability to self serve. It was no longer you had to come to these 5 people in order to get this done. Anyone can go in, they can get what they need, and then it can go out. And it was something that we spent years. I think if I add up all the time that we probably spent stuffing envelopes, it would be astronomical to me. But it's an afterthought now, and it just runs smoothly. It's a little change that way. Big changes. We like most businesses, you do your ERP transformations over your life cycle of your business. You definitely find different things that change what you need and how you're driven. And we had with our ERP that we were operating with, which was a new platform that we had rolled out, but like all things, we were ready to move to the next one. But we had made all of these enhancements in this one. So it was like, how do we get this new platform to do what the old platform was doing? And when we were looking at it and going back and forth, again, getting with Rodney and putting that challenge out, like, why do we need to rely on the ERP? Why can't we build our own self sustaining environment that, regardless of what ERP we use, all we're doing is worrying about connections. As long as the connections can feed in, our environment basically stands alone. And we were able to do that in order to build an automation around our rebates. And they took it further to add on to our commissions. And what it gave us was, and one, again, another self serving environment. It allowed us to add a new level of accountability so that people could actually see what it was that we had going on instead of trying to calculate a rebate out, going over to the AR system and logging in to see is the customer current. We weren't doing that. You just people didn't have the time to do it. So it was just operating under the assumption that they were. And now we were able to say, hey, let's feed all of these systems in. Let's bring all of this data that we need into this one environment. And now let's make it make sense. And it changed the way that we did business. And it allowed us to trust our numbers. In this space that we're in, if you can't trust the numbers, you're dead in the water. So it got us to a point where we could really trust our numbers. We felt comfortable in what we were sending out, and it helped us reduce waste, make sure we weren't at risk for overpaying or underpaying, and really making sure that, as well as holding our teams accountable, we were holding ourselves accountable for our fiduciary responsibilities.
Got it. Love the transformations. I think a few questions on them. On the first part which you mentioned, when you said the invoicing, is it primarily mail order invoicing, or did you like migrate to email invoicing
It
or
was
auto
the
upload?
mailing
What kind of
invoicing. So you got to figure in '07, a lot of people, you're looking at these numbers that were even across the board. You still had, for the amount of customers, you had mailing, emailing, you still had fax was a big thing going on back then. And then we had ACE EDI trying to wiggle its way in. But EDI at the time was something mainly the big customers did. It wasn't something that smaller customers were even open to. And then when you have a lot of mom and pop businesses that we love to support, but they don't really have, nobody has the email. Yeah, they want
email?
to get it. They want to get a letter in the mail. They want to stamp it and then they want to pay us. And that's fine. But the problem is that we needed a way to get them that invoice
Right.
sooner. We're mailing an invoice out from Atlanta, sending it to California. It's just anything can happen. We're putting ourselves so much, and when you want to entice your customers to pay and offer them those great terms, discount terms, you're eating into their time if it's taking you 6 days to get them the invoice. So it was really trying to
Right.
find something that could help support us, and partnering at the time, partnering with Bill Trust was it was a game changer for us. And there's so many platforms out there like that. I think that people look at them and maybe they get scared of what it is that these platforms can actually offer them. But there's so many, and honestly, you can find the one that's right for you. And I think one of the things that
Right.
was helpful for me was if you find a good one, they're willing to partner back with you. So you're able to go to them with,
Right.
hey, you think we can do that? You know, me again with my ideas. You think we can do this? You think we can change this? And they're like, let me think on it, Brenda. And then we're able to do these things. And for us, one of the big things was even going from regular invoicing to getting into the portals. When I started in my career, the amount of customers using Ariba and Coupa, you could count them on one hand. Now it's the norm. Most
Right.
customers are using all of these different platforms out there. So those days
Right.
of somebody sitting and keying in an invoice, it's way too time consuming. And that is a process you
Right.
can automate and have it done and then live in a world where you just deal with the kickouts instead of dealing with the stack of invoices that you got to put into Ariba. Oh, God, I don't miss those days.
Things have changed. I think a lot of companies are using
Yeah.
SAP and Coupa and all. And I also loved your second answer as well. And this is something again which I loved. I also have been a strong believer in it. And you have mentioned having a
Mhm.
self-serving engine, self-serving system. Your company. I what I call it as having a single source of truth across your different systems. Because one of the major problems is there are so
Yes.
many systems that you would be using, right? And it's very difficult to find a
Right.
single layer of understanding, right? Sales guys are thinking in some way, finance guys are thinking in some way, even within finance, AR is thinking in some way,
Right.
AP is thinking in some way, FP&A is thinking. So everybody, it does things differently, and it all boils down to, when you do an FP&A, when you do your projections, when you do your cash flows, or simple reason that you just want to
Right.
understand how the company performing, and it becomes very difficult. So I loved your answer in terms of creating it. I believe in it, and I talk about it, and you have actually implemented it. So that's a huge
Mhm.
credit to you and your team to
I
have
think
built
them a
it.
lot. Them a lot. Yeah,
And,
it was a big thing because just like you said, everybody was doing it
yeah,
differently. That was the thing we found. When everybody's in their own little world, everybody's calculating it their own way. And I didn't want people to have to go
yeah,
looking at this system, just feeding the data in. Then you can actually
right,
do one of the things that we don't do, which is assume. We assume we understand all of the verbiage that is in the contracts. But when you actually build your own
right,
platform and doing it, you're able to go through and make sure that you're meeting all of those demands. Are they supposed to be as percent current? Are certain products excluded? You can make sure that you do all of these things that you say you're going to do, which, is great. It's a cost saver. Businesses love it, but for those of us who were stuck in this world of calculating it in Excel, human error is a big thing. And
yeah,
as much as I'd love to say, oh, my numbers are always perfect, I'm human. So when you're dealing with that, is the one area that we want to be able to mitigate risk. We want to make sure that we're not underbilling or overpaying our customers. So having controls, tight controls over this, it's a winning strategy.
Got it. Agreed. And just one last question. These two projects were they at
Mhm.
Georgia Pacific, or
So
where
those
was
were
these
at
two
Georgia
projects were
Pacific,
done?
and that's where I spent a majority of my time, and I was able to cut my teeth there and definitely partner with a lot of the fabulous teams that were there and learned so much from being boots on the ground and traveling around and meeting everybody, but also being
Right.
able to hear the needs of the business and really addressing a lot of those issues. And like most businesses, you want to get to the point where you do lean. You want to be able to lean your teams. You want to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that exist in the BPO. I spent 10 years in the BPO, and it was such a learning experience for me and definitely helped me realize that you need these tools in order to set your teams up for success. You have to be able to break this chain of we have to be here at the office, we have to print this stuff, we have to, you got to automate it. You got to be able to take the people out of it and let the systems run. And I think that for a lot of people, especially during the COVID years, I'm glad that we set ourselves up and made a lot of the changes that we made. I think it's one of the reasons why during the COVID years we were so successful in a lot of areas because we had already solved for a lot of those problems. A lot of companies were coming face to face with who's going to be there to do it, who's going to print it. And these were things that, because we had done them years earlier, we were all just able to roll right along with it. And it was a game changer for us as well as the business.
So I think let's move to the question. We're running a little bit of time, so
Yeah.
we'll keep it a little bit shorter for the next two questions. Although this one question, I think you and I both love this question, but I think for time purpose, we'll have to cut it a bit short. I think we'd love to know your take on how AI can disrupt the entire
I
O2C
mean,
and PL space.
it's that it's just like I said earlier. It's taking us from this world where we work behind the curve to putting us in a real time world. That is the best thing that automation can do for us in this space. Being able to scan these mailboxes, pull out the pertinent information, update accounts on demand, putting Cash App in a world where we live in real time transactions. It's just if you think about 20 years ago, you had to go to the bank, make a deposit before a certain time. You had to go inside to do it in order for it to clear. Nowadays, we don't live like that. You can take
Yeah.
a picture with your phone and you have the money. You can send a text and you can transfer the money. So, doing those same sort of things with how we handle our AR accounts, how we look at our accounts, how we're communicating with customers, setting up those automated emails at the frequency that we want them to. But then, not only that, not only sending the email out, but making sure that whatever the response is that comes back, that we're able to automate that response that comes back. Somebody doesn't have to sit and read it. The customer can get it. They have a link. They can click. They can pay. They can click. They can dispute. They can click. They can send a note, and you're able to send that information right back and that sort of stuff. It's just a game changer. It's putting how we do business in real time, putting cash application in real time, billing in real time. And that's the way that we, one, have the most control over our cash flow. And then we're also making sure that our numbers are correct. That's what I care about. Are the numbers correct? So, yeah.
I think we can dedicate an entire podcast to this. There's a lot
I
of
know.
very interesting thing you told about, and I'm sorry we have to cut it like very short, but it's very interesting topic. I think AI in, as you rightly mentioned, in cash application, billing, invoicing, across different processes, AI has really great applications. Jump over to the last question, Brenda, in today's podcast. And you have risen through the ranks, right? And you have worked in different organizations. You've worked in manufacturing. You've worked in tech companies. You have worked in different companies and different roles as per se as well. And would love to know what is your advice to become a leader in
My
finance.
advice is surround yourself with top talent. I was fortunate enough that my peers and my peer group was that way. And that also my teams and the people that worked for me were the best of the best. And always allowing them the freedom to help drive that change. One of the things I always told my new teams when they started was, I'm giving you the wheel. Here it is. Just because you've received it this way doesn't mean that this is the way that we're always going to do it. I want you to break it. If you think of a way that we can fix it, a way that we can do something better, bring it to me. Let's brainstorm it and let's do it. Give your teams the freedom to help drive those processes that can improve their day-to-day lives. And it has that ripple effect downstream because the business will reap the benefits. I think that putting a lot of that freedom back into the hands of your teams, because they're your SMEs, they're your power users. They're in the systems every single day. So when you're making these decisions at a higher level and you're not really in the weeds with the people that are doing the work, it causes a disconnect. So that's one of the things I would say is really surround yourself with top and empower your teams. It's the best thing you can do. It makes all the difference. My teams look good, I look good, my team look good.
Got it. Loved your answer. I think there are two major things that you mentioned. One is having really talented folks around you, talented and persevering folks around you. And second thing is giving them the freedom
Yes.
to express themselves, to walk out the way, make mistakes, but learn from your mistakes, and finding a balance between going out of
Yeah.
your comfort zone and really trying to figure it out. And that's where
Yeah.
transformation really lies. Loved your answers, Brenda. I think loved the podcast. Thank you everybody for joining in today's podcast. I hope you had a great time listening to Brenda and me talk about O2C, talk about the transformation projects that we have worked on. Of course, the transformation that Brenda and we're talking about is O2C, but across the CFO tech layer, same transformations can work out. You can use that same transformation that we are doing in an AR, you can put it in an AP and
Right.
work really perfectly. Everything, right? All the systems are connected. And our podcast, thanks, Brenda. Any
No,
thoughts from
thank
your
you for
side?
having me. It's been a great time. I really appreciate it. And let me know if you ever want me back again. I'll come back. We'll talk about some more data.
Thanks a lot, Brenda. And people, if you want have any questions for Brenda, if you just want to reach out and just have a chat with her, please reach out to her. She's very friendly and she's helpful. And please reach out to her for
We'll
anything.
talk soon.
Thanks, Brenda.